Daniel chapter 7 opens with the four most bizarre prophetic creatures perhaps of all time. Four beasts, some with wings, some with multiple heads. In this video, we will explore what they might be and when they might come upon the world. We are going to make an assumption not seen before, that the four beasts of Daniel 7 are the same as the four horns of the goat of Daniel chapter 8. This is an entirely new theory. Unless you read the comments section of our videos, that is, it was suggested by one of the brilliant followers of this channel. And after analyzing the scriptures, I think her thoughts make a lot of sense. So let me share my analysis of her theory with you. In our previous video on Daniel 7, the first installment, we examined the fourth of these beasts in detail, the fourth terrifying beast. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, click on the banner to check it out now. It sets a lot of the groundwork for this video. In it, we learned that all four beasts are kingdoms and kings that arise on the earth. We also learned that the fourth beast is associated with an evil demon spirit that was previously in the abyss and comes out of the abyss in the end times. Are the other three beasts in Daniel 7 also associated with demon spirits as well? Well, maybe. We know in Daniel 10 that Michael the archangel and another angel are restraining the prince of Persia and later will restrain the prince of Greece. These princes are supernatural and seem associated with earthly kingdoms. So the answer is maybe. Maybe the other three beasts are also associated with demons. And maybe that's why the term beast is used rather than kingdom, because it also represents a demon. But that is a supposition on my part. Scripture is not 100% clear. So returning to Daniel's dream vision of the four beasts. In the previous video, we also learned that the four winds of heaven are angels and are stirring up the great sea, which symbolically is the Gentile nations. We also learned that the great sea is literally the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. The four beasts come out of the Gentile nations in that region, the Eastern Mediterranean. The beasts arise because the four winds of heaven are causing a great commotion that causes them to arise. We're going to take a scripturally based guess at what this commotion is later in the video. These four winds of heaven are found mentioned in other places in Daniel and by other prophets. They are seen again in Daniel 8. And again, it involves the formation of four kingdoms or horns. And then in Daniel 11, we see these same four winds dividing a kingdom into four new kingdoms. This will be a time of great commotion, the breakup of the great kingdom of the goat. So are all these pictures the same event? Is this the coming of the four beasts out of the sea? Are they also the four horns of the goat? That will be our theory in this video. Four colored horses appear in Zechariah, very similar to those in Revelation. And again, these are going out to the four winds of heaven. We will discuss the four horsemen of Revelation in an upcoming video, but obviously there is a similarity between the beasts and the horses as well, and that similarity is the four winds of heaven. There are additional references to the four winds in Jeremiah and in Zechariah, Matthew and Mark, all in end-time settings. And are all of these related in some ways to the beasts? But we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, and we'll come back to the four winds of heaven. But at this point, let's return to the four beasts and concentrate on them. The first three beasts, described for us like a lion with eagle's wings, like a bear, and like a leopard with four heads and four wings. To which you may be thinking, duh, I already know that. Those are the historic kingdoms, the same as the four metals of the statue. And the four beasts are the same thing, right? To which I respond, well, maybe not. Although the beasts and the statue are very similar, there are four reasons they may not be exactly the same. Let's look at a verse we examined in the previous video, the beast from the sea in Daniel 7. These great beasts, which are 4 in number, are 4 kings who will arise from the earth. Daniel 7:17. One key to understanding this passage may be that it says the beasts will arise. Will means in the future. When Daniel received this vision in the first year of King Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar had been dead for 10 years already. So this cannot be speaking of him or ancient Babylon. They had already arisen at this point. Second, in Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue, all the kingdoms were destroyed at the same time by the stone that hit the statue. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold all together were broken in pieces and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors. But in Daniel 7, the first 3 beasts were allowed to live on for a season after the destruction of the 4th beast. This is also different than the dream of the statue. In fact, it is an insurmountable difference. If you thought the statue and the beasts were the same, they are not, if only for this difference. But there are 2 more reasons. The third is that on Nebuchadnezzar's statue, the 10 toes are a separate section. They are part of the end-time manifestation of the Iron Kingdom when it becomes iron and clay mixed. They start out iron and transition into the toes. They are separate from the legs of iron. But when the 4th beast appears in Daniel 7, it already has the 10 horns. It already is the end-time manifestation when it first appears. And finally, as we discussed in a previous video, where will the Antichrist come from according to Daniel 8? The Greek kingdom was never divided into 4 kingdoms, but rather into 24, and then finally it coalesced into 3, but not 4 for any significant period of time. Yet the beast in Daniel 7, the leopard, has 4 heads and 4 wings. And this does not compare with historic Greece that never was divided into 4 nations. So it appears, for these 4 reasons, the 4 beasts are future end-time manifestations. I know the majority of our viewers haven't realized this, but that is what the scripture seems to imply. But if that is so, then who are they? Some who realize they are future kingdoms look at the names of the beasts and apply modern national symbols to them. When they hear lion, they think England. Some see the eagle's wings and think America, and others hear the bear and think Russia. But that is not really a biblical method. We have already seen the beasts come out of the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea, and none of these nations do. We need to see what the Bible tells us about what these names might mean. As we've mentioned, there are great similarities between the statues, kingdoms of gold, silver, and bronze, and what we are told about the lion, the bear, and the leopard. Let's look at those similarities. Maybe that will give us a clue as to who these nations might be in the future. The lion with eagle's wings sure sounds like Nebuchadnezzar, who was called a lion in Jeremiah 4:7, and his horses like eagle's wings in verse 13 of that exact same passage. Also, we see that this beast has his beast mind taken away from him, and he's given a man's mind. This is similar to Daniel 4, where Nebuchadnezzar's pride led him to becoming mad and acting like a beast for 7 years until he repented. Then he was restored to a man's mind. As I said, these things related to Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar are incredibly similar to what we read about the lion with eagle's wings. If we hadn't just proven the beasts are end-time related, we'd have to conclude that this one is Babylon. The bear is lifted up on one side. This means it has 2 sides. It is a divided kingdom, and one side is stronger than the other. For those assuming that this might be Russia, This seems to be a problem. Russia is not a divided nation with a stronger side, but the Medo-Persian Empire of the past was a joint kingdom just like that. Again, this looks a lot like that ancient kingdom. The leopard is given dominion in Daniel chapter 7. This is parallel to the bronze kingdom ruling the whole earth in Daniel 2. And the fourth terrifying beast has teeth of iron, just like the fourth kingdom is iron. And it crushes and tramples with its feet, just as the fourth kingdom crushes and pulverizes the kingdoms that went before it in Daniel 2. And finally, the kingdoms are presented in the exact same order. The one like Babylon first, the one like Persia second, and the one like Greece third, etc. And I think that word like is super important in this passage. And it's the word most scholars have overlooked. If Babylon is the lion with eagle's wings, then the first beast is like it, but not exactly the same. This only reinforces what we've been saying about the four beasts being end-time manifestations of the earlier kingdoms. The first beast is like Babylon, the second is like Persia, and the third is like Greece. How are they like these previous empires? That is the question. Might they exist on the same approximate piece of land? That seems highly likely. For instance, might the lion exist on the land that was once Babylon? Might the bear exist on the land that was once Persia? And might the leopard exist on the land that was the Hellenistic Greek Empire? We aren't told this directly, but we might surmise that that is true. Might they also exhibit other similar qualities to their ancient counterparts? They might. Specifically, they probably exhibit the traits that are listed in the text. That they will be like the former empire based on the overwhelming character trait given in Daniel 7. The beast that is like a lion might be made to stand up on its feet and be given the mind of a man. Let's look at the lesson that we might learn from ancient Babylon about this character trait of the beast. Nebuchadnezzar's descent into becoming like a beast is recorded in Daniel 4, where we learn that for the sin of pride, Nebuchadnezzar became like a beast for 7 years. Now, every student of prophecy should be picking up their ears at that statement. They should recognize the 7-year period as similar to Daniel's 70th week. It was also a 7-year period. Now, will the beast like a lion with eagle's wings become a beast for that exact period, the 70th week of Daniel, only to be raised up on its feet and given a man's civilized mind at the end of the 7? To me, that would be a logical conclusion. Will the beast like a lion only be a beast for a temporary time? Does it start out with a civilized mind, become a beast for the 70th week of Daniel, and then become civilized again at the end? That would be my best guess. About the bear, we learn 3 facts. It is raised up on one side. It has 3 ribs in its mouth, and it's told to consume much flesh. Being raised up implies there are 2 sides to this kingdom, and one is stronger than the other. The 3 ribs may mean it consumes 3 other nations, and the consuming much flesh implies it has an appetite for conquest. The leopard has 4 heads, and it is the only one of the beasts that is said to be given dominion. Does this mean that the end-time beast is the first to conquer the other beasts in this area? I think that may be what it means. We will discuss this further in the next video as we begin to discuss the timing and order of these end-time events in Daniel 7. And after the first 3 beasts arise, we are introduced to the 4th beast. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful, and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the other beasts that went before it, and it had 10 horns. The mouth, feet, and horns of this 10th beast are its identifying features. We know from Revelation 13 that the 4th beast has the mouth of a lion, and that's where the teeth are, the iron teeth. For a nation has come up against my land, powerful and beyond number. Its teeth are lion's teeth, and it has the fangs of a lioness, Joel 1:6. The 4th beast also has the feet of a bear that stamps and tramples what the mouth doesn't consume. And of course the claws, we find out, are made of Greek kingdom bronze. So the strength of the final 4th beast comes from these 3 constituent parts of its empire. And these elements may be focused on Israel. When they, Israel, had grazed, they became full. They were filled, and their heart was lifted up. Therefore they forgot me. So I am to them like a lion. Like a leopard I will lurk beside the way. I will fall upon them like a bear robbed of her cubs. Hosea 13:6-8. Again, like a lion, like a bear, and like a leopard. Let's take a moment here to review what we've uncovered so far. The winds of heaven will stir up the Gentile nations to bring forth these 4 end-time kingdoms. And we gave 4 reasons that they will be end-time kingdoms, not Babylon, Persia, or Greece. These end-time kingdoms will be like the ancient kingdoms of Daniel's statue in several important ways. That may include their geographical footprint and certain characteristics. Now that we understand these things, let's try to apply them by figuring out the order of end-time events. The key to this order of events is the very next chapter, Daniel 8. After Daniel received the prophecy of Daniel 7, he became sick, and he didn't understand it at all. That is the position many of us are in right now, not completely understanding the 4 beasts we just looked at. So 2 years after Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts, God gave Daniel a second vision, after that which appeared first. In other words, to explain what the first vision was about. And it shares many common elements. The little horn, 4 kingdoms, and in this case, a very specific reference that it's end-time related. However, it begins with 2 very different animals, a ram and a goat. Now, a vast majority of the church assumes these 2 animals are the same as 2 of the 4 beasts, the bear and the leopard, and also the same as 2 of the 4 kingdoms of the statue, Persia and Greece. But think about that for a moment. If God's purpose of this vision in Daniel 8 is to clarify the 4 beasts, adding 2 more symbols, 2 more types of animals, does nothing to clarify. It just makes it more complex. Also, where are the other 2 beasts? The one like a lion that starts things off, and the most important one, the 4th terrifying beast. No, none of that makes any sense at all. For it to make sense, these 2 animals, the ram and the goat, must be different from the 4 beasts of Daniel 7. In fact, in my opinion, they are precursors of those 4 beasts. If you want a more complete answer to why these 2 animals aren't Persia and Greece, and why this prophecy in Daniel 8 is not about Alexander the Great, click on the banner to watch our most popular video, which provides all the answers why this is an end-time prophecy, showing there are 7 historical reasons it is not historic, and 3 direct pronouncements of an angel showing that it is an end-time prophecy. If you are interested in completing the understanding of why the 4 beasts are 4 horns, then keep watching for an abbreviated explanation of these things. So Daniel 8 in its vision was given to Daniel by the angel Gabriel to answer 4 important questions for him and for us. Number 1, when did the 4 beasts emerge? Number 2, What events take place before the four beasts? Number 3, where exactly does the little horn come from? And number 4, what takes place after the little horn comes forth? Let's look at them one at a time. When do the four beasts come forth? In Daniel 7, we saw that there were 4 reasons that it's the end times. In Daniel 8, however, God doesn't want to leave that to chance. He wants to make it perfectly clear, so he communicates it in plain language via his angel. In fact, someone in the appearance of a man, who is probably Jesus himself, commands Gabriel to make Daniel understand. Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. Gabriel then proceeds to tell Daniel 3 times in clear language, not in images or symbols, that the vision of the ram and the goat is about the end times, the final indignation, or the appointed time of the end. What could be more clear? Yet, as you know, this is not clear to most Christians even today. This is because the book of Daniel was sealed until just recently. And as we said earlier, it makes no sense at all that the ram and goat are 2 of the 4 beasts of Daniel 7. Why would God confuse Daniel by giving them different names? And why would he ignore 2 of the other 4 beasts, especially the most important one, the 4th beast? No, none of that makes any sense. Rather, the ram and the goat are the precursor nations of the 4 beasts. They are what come before them. And the events pictured are what the 4 beasts of Daniel 7 come out of. Let us show you why that is. In Daniel 8, the angel Gabriel tells Daniel directly that the ram is the king of the Medes and the Persians, which is located where Iran is located today, and that the goat is Yevan, which is the area of Greece and western Turkey today. In the previous mentioned video, where the Antichrist will come from according to Daniel 8, we support the case of what end-time nations these are. However, regardless of our opinions, a nation occupying the current landmass held by Iran, the ram, in this vision, will be overcome by a nation based out of the Istanbul area, probably also including Turkey, Greece, and the Balkans. At this point, the goat has a single prominent horn. It is a single kingdom with a single leader. Scripture tells us that this goat kingdom and its leader became exceedingly great. What would happen in today's world if a Middle Eastern power overcame Iran and became exceedingly great? That's right, I think I heard you say it. The superpowers or the UN would break it up. And that is exactly what we are told happens in Scripture. The goat kingdom is broken up into 4 smaller, weaker kingdoms. And this is the point of the story where the 4 beasts enter. In my opinion, the 4 beasts are the 4 horns of the goat. And let me prove that to you. Scripture interprets Scripture. First, there are 4 of them, just like the 4 beasts. Second, they come up toward the 4 winds of heaven, just as in Daniel 7. We learned the 4 beasts came out of the sea after it was stirred up by these same winds. So what is the stirring up of the Gentile nations? Why, in my opinion, it's the war between the ram and the goat, and then the breakup of the kingdom of the goat. This creates the 4 horns, which are the 4 beasts. It is quite a stir-up, to say the least. Third, they are horns, and out of one of them comes the little horn, just as we see in Daniel 7, where the little horn comes out from among the 10 horns. So, are the 4 horns of the goat 4 of the 10 horns we read about in Daniel 7? Yes, that is my theory. In fact, might all 10 horns be created at this exact same time as the 4 horns of the goat? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it's a strong possibility in my opinion. Then the exact same process occurs in both Daniel 8 and in Daniel 7. The little horn plucks out 3 of the original horns by the roots. In Daniel 8, we read he became great towards 3 directions of the compass, to the south, to the east, and to the west, which is where Israel, the glorious land, is. So we have seen 5 separate reasons that the 4 beasts of Daniel 7 are the 4 horns of Daniel 8. Why has no one seen this before the commentator on one of my other videos? Well, frankly, because the book of Daniel was sealed until the end times, I didn't see it either. So let's review these reasons. First, they are both groups of 4 end-time kingdoms. Daniel 7 implies their end time, and Daniel 8 says it directly. Second, they are each 4 in number, unlike the goat and the ram, which are just 2 in number. Third, their coming up is related to the 4 winds of heaven in both chapters. Fourth, both chapters speak of the coming of a little horn or Antichrist as from amongst the horns. And fifth, both chapters explain that after the rising of a little horn, he plucks out 3 of the original horns by the roots, to the directions of the south, the east, and the west. Are these 3 horns the first 3 beasts of Daniel 7 and the other 3 horns of the goat in Daniel 8? I believe they are. That is why the 4th terrifying beast is a composite of the other 3, which Revelation 13 tells us about. It is a leopard, has the mouth of a lion, and the feet of a bear. And in our next video, we will complete our study on Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 and discuss the career of a little horn.